So we're talking this hour a little bit about the warning that came from the NSA whistleblower about the government collecting all the information on us, and then tied it to what Ray Kurzweil was saying. And Stu, would you do me a favor? Would you contact TV and ask them if we can at the next year, if I can maybe go up to Ray in Boston or something and spend an hour or two with him talking about the or maybe we even do a debate with him and what's our guy at Yale? David Glertner. David Glertner is a guy who was the first victim of the Unabomber. And he is kind of the competition, if you will, to Ray Kurzweil. And they've debated before. And I'd love to see the debates on philosophy of this technology, because the problem on selling, people on this is bad on what we're doing with technology, what we are building, make no mistake, is Skynet. It will monitor absolutely everything in your life. And it's already doing it. If you have a smart meter in your home, it's already doing it. And most people will say, that's pretty good because it'll tell me exactly what my energy usage is, and it will help me make smarter decisions. And you're exactly right. It's the centralization of the data collection that is so bad. It's not the technology. It's the collection and the preservation of that data. And it's already being used. Now, again, everything that we tell you, you have to take the step on. It falls into the wrong hands. But let me ask you a question. Do you trust the federal government anymore the way it's moving? Do you believe that it is a fire that can only burn down bad things? Or are you beginning to believe that, we're moving in the wrong direction and this thing could go wrong, really wrong at any emergency? When you're classifying the Tea Party people as terrorists, which they have already done, do you believe that this could go wrong? When they're already saying we can scoop up and hold indefinitely without trial any American citizen, do you believe that we should keep our eye on them and not make their job easier? I happen to believe that we're in that territory, that this thing could go awry at the drop of a hat. It will only take an event or a couple of events to get us there. Now, when you have the smart meters, right now, smart meters are great, but as Brad Thor in his book, I believe it was Blacklist, it demonstrated the systems that are already in place to where if you're in a smart meter and you're suspected as a terrorist, which, by the way, you don't have to because of the Patriot Act, you no longer need a warrant to be watched. You no longer, if any FBI agent says, I think Glenn Beck is a terrorist, he can write his own warrant. So he can basically warrantless wiretap me and be able to find out any information that they want. We already have verified information, I believe it was in the New York Times, Washington Post, that they already are eavesdropping and watching people in my position, that media members and journalists, as they called them, high-profile media and journalist entities and individuals are being monitored now. I had a friend tell me 2 years ago, if you think that they don't know everything that you're writing on email, you're a fool. I'm no fool. I know they are. Now, what are they going to do with that information? Smart meters, right now, if you're on that list, somebody says that you are a terrorist, they can now write themselves a warrant. They don't even have to go to a judge. They write a warrant, and now they can monitor everything. And just on the smart meters, if your energy use all of a sudden starts to be out of the normal, for instance, it goes down, they're automatically alerted that something is happening in your home, that your energy use has gone down. So it automatically now goes out and searches the internet for your transactions, for airplanes, for buses, for everything else. Your meter when you go on toll booths, toll roads, it looks for, have they traveled? Are they gone from the house? If your energy use goes up, it then goes out and, because it's already been looking at all of your email, it then goes out and sifts through your email looking for any kind of clue on who's visiting your home, who is at your house now because your water usage has gone up, your electricity has gone up. So it calculates how many people must be in the house to be able to have that energy use go up or that water use go up. And then it tags them. So it's great if you're a terrorist. I mean, well, no, it's great if you're looking for the terrorist because it will say, Mahmoud Abbas and Mohammed appears to be, they bought a bus ticket and this guy bought a plane ticket to the city. I think they're all together. They must be close to something. That's what's happening with your smart meters right now. Now, God forbid you're ever put on a enemy of the state list because you ain't going anywhere. Get in your car with OnStar. Anybody have an OnStar story? Anybody?
I actually have one pretty recent. I have OnStar in my car. And again, these things I think are great. OnStar is like the greatest service of all time. I love it.
There's no better customer service than OnStar.
Let me just say this. We have to make sure that everybody always understands that when we talk about this, we are both thrilled and horrified by this technology. It is this technology is the greatest thing ever, but in the wrong hands, it is the worst technology.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're totally right on that. And then that's obviously the main line of defense on this has to be the wrong hands. Because as you pointed out, Glenn, when you asked how does this get stopped? How does all this technology get stopped? And you said, your guest, which is William Biddy, he's not going to be on with us on TV tonight. But he said, only if the American people really rise up and say no to it. I don't even know if that's the line anymore. I don't even think it's stoppable in that way. I don't know that it's stoppable in a way of saying, well, a lot of people are going to rise up against it because it's too positive for people's everyday life. Yeah, and not to mention you have...
Well, the only way to stop it is for people not to buy it.
Yeah,
like if these Google phones come out, you reject them.
But like they're not, to get them, you'd have to get off the internet. You'd have to do all these things that people just aren't going to do.
You know what really bothered me? Look at the front page of glennbeck.com from our tour. And it was yesterday. I think I saw it again this morning. One of the pictures of the three of us sitting on the bus. That is the typical picture of the American people now at work or really even at play or sometimes even at the dinner table. There were the three of us sitting on the couch, all three of us with a different device, not talking to each other, but working on our device. Mm-hmm. That's everybody's connected.
So, all on the internet as we're traveling in the middle of nowhere on a bus. It's pretty amazing stuff.
Amazing.
I mean, we're not Luddites. We love this stuff. Mm-hmm. It's just that you gotta have a grain of caution go with of this.
What was your OnStar story?
So I'm driving the other day and somewhat in a rush back from where we were. There are certain people who would describe it as exceeding the legal speed limit in a specific zone. Now, I disagree with that analysis. I was going exactly the speed limit, but some people would say that. I called OnStar 100 million times, and every time I do, they're the greatest people on earth. They're really nice. They're very helpful. And for the first time, as I was driving, and some would say exceeding the speed limit, they signed off with, thank you, Mr. Berger, please, drive carefully. And they started saying drive carefully for the next few times that I called them, which I don't know.
As you're exceeding the speed limit by a lot.
As some people would describe it as that. I would not, of course.
Okay.
But some people would say that. And
so they've never said that to you before?
Never said it before. They always just say, thank you very much for calling.
The implication being that they knew you were speeding and they're telling you not to.
Yeah,
in a
exactly.
really respectful, polite sort of way.
In a very subtle way.
Does somebody sound paranoid about breaking the law there, Stu?
No,
I know a lot of people will say when you're driving in the car, hey, drive carefully. I say that to my kids when they're going someplace. Hey, drive carefully.
The thing is,
they're paranoid.
But when
they
you call,
do know your speed.
They of course they know.
They're looking at it. They know.
And of course, I've called them probably 100 times since I've got this car, and every time they sign off is essentially the same way, which is never. I noticed it. I never noticed it. They just said, "Hey, Mr. Berger, please drive carefully."
They know a lot more than just your speed. This was several years ago, maybe 5 years ago. We have OnStar as well, and my wife and the kids were on a trip alone from Utah back to Texas, and I wasn't able to go with them. So it was kind of nice to know that OnStar is there. And they're in the middle of New Mexico on the way back to Texas. I think the nearest city was maybe 60 miles away, and my wife was hearing some weird noise in the engine. So she pushes a button, gets OnStar on the line, and tells him that there's some weird sound in the engine.
Diagnostics.
And they went to diagnostics. They diagnosed the engine remotely in the middle of nowhere, came back to her just a couple of minutes later and said, ma'am, it is something or other in your engine. It's not a serious problem, but you might want to have it serviced as soon as you get home.
OnStar is
That's it, but they knew from remote on a
they can
satellite.
shut your engine off. They can deflate your tires.
And they do.
It is amazing
Unlock your
technology.
doors, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I start, in the summer here in Texas, it gets so hot outside that 10 minutes before I leave, I start my car through my iPhone. So the air conditioning's running. I started.
All of this stuff is great, but I'll tell you, I mean, because I have a different life, we actually had to have my car. We have my cars bomb-proof, so we have to strip them down to the core. When I buy a car, we buy it, we strip it down, we take the whole body off, and we have to rebuild the body of the car. Oh, it's cheap. And when we had the truck built here recently, we stripped it down, and I had every piece of electronics taken out of that car. I don't want microphones on it. I don't want a navigation system in it. I don't want anything in it. Now, nobody does that. Nobody does that. But unless you've done that, or you specifically go and buy an old car that doesn't have any of this stuff in it, you are absolutely trackable. Now, I don't mind. I don't think that anybody is sitting around, watching me from space, or they give a flying crap where I'm driving to. However, I don't like the fact that everybody can have access and store information on everything that I do.
And that's where the William Binney stuff comes in, where he says they're storing 500 trillion troglobytes of information, or whatever it is, at this new facility in Utah. They can store absolutely everything every American has done for 100 years at this new place.
Ask yourself this question. If they know exactly what you're thinking before you think it, that's what Ray Kurzweil said. And I asked him this question, he didn't have an answer. What is the definition of self? What is the definition of an individual? Because if they know what I'm thinking inside is the only thing that is true. That's the essence of me. So there is no me. And he didn't really have an answer to that, which was telling, because he believes that humans can be upgraded, and also there will be no death because you can just be stored. The answer is there is no self. There is no me at the end of this road.